Let's start home. Let's start with a story that we've been following since early this month. And we're talking about the Dilworth home explosion. You may remember this story from earlier this month, but tonight, or I guess I should say this afternoon, I'm used to saying tonight on the TV scripts, but this afternoon, WCNC Charlotte investigation uncovers a failure that put firefighters and people living in the Dilworth neighborhood at risk. We learned in the moments after a house explosion that rocked the Dilworth neighborhood earlier this month, sparking a huge fire. 2 of the closest fire hydrants did not work. Instead of immediately fighting the flames with a large supply of water, WCNC Charlotte's Nate Morbido discovered firefighters spent precious minutes scrambling to find a working fire hydrant. We have Nate in studio. Nate, I'm reading this, and this is disturbing. This is shocking. How did you come across this?
Yeah, I mean, like, you have a hydrant in your front yard, you expect it to work, especially if there's a fire, and then the firefighters go to hook up and it doesn't work. It's crazy. I learned about this through a tip initially in some on-the-ground reporting from one of our colleagues as well, where basically people in that neighborhood on Lombardy Circle were upset with the city because these hydrants were not functioning, and they would have never known it had a house not blown up and started a fire. And it's really kind of unclear to know if the firefighters could have hooked up sooner, if it would have made any kind of a difference, because there were 2 homes on either side of this house that people can't live in right now. You know, and part of it is because of the explosion. I mean, there was a house 4 houses down whose windows broke during this thing, so it's hard to kind of figure out what was caused by the fire that followed and what wasn't. We know that one of the neighboring houses' attics did catch on fire, and firefighters tried to put that off. But I started with a tip. We went out, we did some on-the-ground reporting, and talked to homeowners there and neighbors who just cannot believe it. They say it's unacceptable, and I think any objective person would say it is unacceptable. If you have a fire hydrant, it better be working, unless it needs to be serviced, and it should be on a list to get fixed at some point. We're not talking about 1 hydrant. We're talking about 2 hydrants that didn't work.
Wow.
So it's just, like, to me, insane to think that, particularly in this neighborhood, it's in the heart of the city. These are homes that over time have inflated in value, and they're paying more in taxes because of it. And not that any neighborhood should have any more right to working water than any other, but it's wild to think about how much money they're putting in their taxes, and what they're getting in return is really, to me, the shocking part.
And you said you got a chance to speak. We actually have some of that, a portion of that interview, right? You got a chance to speak with it.
Here's 2 of the residents. We talked to Robbie Thacker and Amelia McMurphy. They're going to tell you kind of their thoughts.
Okay, let's listen into that.
I would expect quick service, which we got, professional service, which we got, and I would expect fire hydrants that work.
We pay pretty hefty taxes, and the expectation is that it would work, and we are so in the heart of the city. It's not like we are in the outskirts, so it's just heartbreaking to know that there was no water in it when it was actually needed.
Yeah, I mean, what sticks out just hearing those residents, I mean, it's heartbreaking, because this is your, when you think of your home, that's your safe space. That's where you go, and after a long day of work or whatever you're doing, that's where you can have some sort of, again, it's your sanctuary, right. And it's compromised.
Well, and I'll tell you, this part of town too, I'm sure you've gone down East Boulevard before, past all the restaurants down there. This Lombardy Circle, it's on either side of East Boulevard, near Freedom Park, and this is across the street from Freedom Park, essentially. And these homes are so close together.
Yeah.
Number one. So if it's going to explode, it's going to be a problem. But then if there's going to be a fire, I mean, Mealy, who we interviewed with her daughter, standing next to her, said you could feel the heat from across the street. The flames were incredible there. And they're not upset at the fire department. I mean, the fire department, they showed up within 3 minutes. Right. They're pretty pleased with the response there. The call went out, they got there in 3 minutes. Then it took them 5 minutes to find a hydrant that was working. So you're there 3 minutes in, and you have some water on your trucks and your fire engines that you're using to fight it, but it's not going to last you that long. It's not endless, but a huge supply of water. And they're scrambling. They're using resources to find these other hydrants that aren't closer. At one point on the scanner traffic that I listened to, they're saying the closest hydrant is the one on East Boulevard, which is not right next to that house. I mean, it's a good a good length of time to pull a hose from. So, the question that we had was, number one, why did this happen? Because it's unacceptable. It should not be happening. Number two, what is the city going to do to make sure this doesn't happen again? And that's really what at the heart of our investigation tonight at 6 looks at. I will tell you that Charlotte Water, who's in charge of the hydrant, says that this wasn't the city's fault. There's been a lot of development work on that street. There's been new developments going up. There's been contractors there. In fact, the people that live on Lombardy Circle, one of them even emailed me several months ago with concerns about the damages that they said contractors were causing on their street, the lack of respect they felt these crews were giving to them. We know that their water has been shut off multiple times due to some potential infrastructure improvements, plus the other crews working there. And now the city is saying these hydrants didn't work because contractors essentially were messing with them. They were not using them appropriately. They were messing around with some of the equipment of it for whatever reason, we don't know. But that made it difficult for the hydrants to function. So now the question is, well, what is the city going to do about this, right? The city says they're increasing oversight moving forward. If you have construction in your neighborhood, if there's utility work in your neighborhood near a fire hydrant, they will be checking those more often to make sure they are working. And unbelievably, really, nobody was killed in this situation.
Oh, yeah.
This was early in the morning. You have to think that most people were home. It was like 6, a little after 6 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
And, the fire, I think it took them about an hour or so to get the fire under control. And again, these homes are really close to each other, and there's development behind it. So thank goodness this didn't turn out worse than it was, but it still was bad. And for these people that live nearby there, I mean, how can they trust that they're going to be protected by their fire hydrants moving forward? This shakes you to your core there.
It's, and I don't want to sound accusatory, but it's kind of hard to believe that the city didn't know that contractors were working on the streets or doing development work, and the water was being shut off, and that these hydrants were compromised. Like, they should know that, right?
So this is like one of my core problems with the reporting that I do in this area. There is a lack of accountability. We requested an interview, right? I left multiple voicemails just to talk to a human being to understand, because these are the conversations that come up when you interview or talk to people. In an email, which I got an email statement, there's no room for that. I don't know what their systems show. I don't know if there's a computer system that shows when there's low or no flow in part of their hydrant system. But we're in 2025, you would think there might be some technology, or if a contractor is going to mess with a hydrant, you would think there'd be some kind of communication or process in place. So what I will do, and this is what I usually do in reporting when it comes to government processes, the relevant city council members that are on committees that kind of help govern our water should be made aware of this. And I will share this with them and say, what are you all doing to make sure, beyond these spot checks, beyond the continuous monitoring, just to make sure these kind of things don't fall through the crack? Because again, there were 2 hydrants very close to that home. Firefighters couldn't use either of them.
2-part question. Are those hydrants working now? And do those residents feel safe living there still?
Yeah, so the residents tell me that they came out and they fixed the one hydrant, and it is working for sure. And the idea is that the other one should be functioning now too. And yes, I mean, they feel relatively safe, but they also feel like they've lost their neighborhood. I mean, this is a historic neighborhood. Developers are coming in, building. They're getting offers to buy their homes. Their homes kind of have a lower square footage for how much the homes are valued at. And so, yeah, I mean, it does shake your concern a little bit when you're used to living in a place and you're feeling like you've got the good protection you need. But they are very pleased with the firefighters' response.
Yeah.
Right.
So the people in all of this, they can rely on them, they feel like. The system, the hydrant, the equipment, they have their doubts about.
And another thing that kind of comes to mind is, and correct me if I'm wrong, they do races in these areas like 5Ks and 10Ks. I'm just thinking, what if this would have happened during one of these big events? Charlotte is a run community.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, what would have happened?
I mean, they always have these firefighters when they train for these kind of situations, right? They train for anything to go wrong. So they have plans in place and training that lets them kind of keep looking for the next available hydrant. They were able to come up with a solution. Again, we don't know, if those extra 5 minutes, what kind of impact, if any,
Yeah.
they had. But I'm telling you, there's tons of restaurants up there.
Yes,
There's
yeah.
tons of historic homes over there.
Yeah.
There's tons of new condos and apartments over there. And if this can happen here, it can happen anywhere.
Right.
Right? So take the neighborhood out of it
Yeah.
for a second. The fact that 2 hydrants closest to a place where a house exploded didn't work should be an alarm to everyone. In any part of the city, they should be demanding that their systems are in place that work for them and protect them.
And I just want to point out, separate but related, the homeowner accused of setting the fire was arrested in Chicago.
Fugitive of justice, right?
fugitive-
Is what-
yeah.
I think it was a little more than a week after the explosion happened. I checked yesterday, and I didn't see any formal charges against him.
I didn't see
Yeah.
any either.
I
Yeah.
haven't checked.
Yeah, I was actually off the day it happened, so I was kind of a little bit playing catch up once I received the tip about the concerns there. But the whole thing is just incredibly heartbreaking. There's one neighbor who is for sure displaced because of this, no fault of their own. And the other home has been impacted too. I'm told those people are displaced too. And so you got this neighborhood trying to come together to help these people, but they're also coming together to call for accountability at the city of Charlotte.
Yeah.
And they've been asking the city to help them for months as it is because of their problems with the contractors. So it's this kind of boiled over here.
Wow. That is Nate Morabito, does incredible work. I highly recommend, if you have an issue or problem, reach out to Nate, reach out to the team as a whole, but reach out to Nate. Because, again, Nate does great work. And what I love about Nate's work is he takes his time. And when that story comes out, it is, Nate is not going to give himself a pat on the back, but it is close to perfection because you do a great job. You
We
take
try
your
to button it up.
Yeah.
I do have
Yeah.
a question. I just,
Yeah.
not to delay
Yeah,
it
yeah,
any
yeah,
longer,
yeah.
but if there's somebody that's listening right now that has a hydrant in front of their house and wants to know, does this work? Who do you reach out to? Because you said there's
Yeah.
no sort of resource to show that, right?
Well, we don't know because they wouldn't do an interview with us.
Right.
But we can tell you that firefighters
So you reach
will
out to
usually-
Charlotte Water?
So Charlotte Fire Department should know, first of all.
Okay.
They go annually. I believe they test them annually. That's at least the standard. They may test it more than that.
Yeah.
Every hydrant to make sure they're functioning. You should reach out to Charlotte Water to ask them. I would do that if I had a hydrant in my front yard. And you should reach out to your city council member. Hey, I saw WCNC Charlotte's reporting this. How can I be assured that my hydrant in my neighborhood is working right now?
Because there's no marker. Like if it's not working, they don't put a marker on the hydrant.
They will,
They
though.
do?
Yeah, I think, a few years ago I did a story about some hydrants that were not working in Gaston County. And at that time, Charlotte Water told me more than 99% of their hydrants are working at any given time. And there was some kind of tag, if I recall,
Okay, so
on
they-
it.
okay, I was
that
just
kind of
curious.
flagged it as non-functioning. And I think it said as much. Now, that was in Gaston County, but I think that's fairly common.
Okay.
So, yeah, just keep that in mind. And this story, by the way, should be on WCNC.com right now. If it's not been published yet, I believe it has been.
Okay.
So you can look at the details there, kind of see the ins and outs of our reporting. It's going to air on TV tonight at 6. But yeah, reach out to your council members. Reach out to Charlotte Water. You pay monthly bill for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Reach out to the fire department. They should
Someone
know less
should have an
than-
answer.
When's the last time has this hydrant been tested? And it may even say it on the tag.
Yeah.
Sometimes that will happen too.
And look, this story will inspire folks to go back and
Yeah.
again, check the status of their hydrants and know who to contact as
I
well.
mean, you don't need it until you need it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about the hydrant across the street from
Yeah.
my house
No.
ever,
Yeah.
but now I am.
Yeah, no,
No.
right.
Right. Right.
Unfortunately.
Man, Nate, thank you again. And you can catch that story right now online on
Should be on there, yep.
All right.
WCNC.com, and I'll be on TV tonight at 6 to have the full TV story.
Nate, thank you for your time, man.
Appreciate y'all.
Man, an incredible story there.